City. Hello, everybody. This is the 12th chapter podcast, the podcast where we discuss universities here at Colegio Bolívar. Today, we're going to talk about financial aid and counselors that you should take into account for your university. To start off with financial aid, well, in my experience, I'm going to talk about different things you could have that you may have. That, for example, I have a global education aid, that is correct. That, well, for here in Colombia, I know Enrique has one for the United States, and in my case, if I get into any university in Colombia, this sort of program will cover the cost of my tuition on any Colombian university that I get into. But for example, if I were to go to the United States, this aid will not give the same amount of money that it would if I stay here in Colombia, since it would do an average of the universities in Colombia, and they will give me that money in order to study abroad. So that is why it's a better option for me in my case to stay here in Colombia.
Of course, I also have global. This is something that your parents pay or buy into when you're very young. So of course, as your parents. In my case, there are three basic plans for global. There's one for Colombia, in which, if I just explain, there's one in the U.S. that basically covers all public schools in the U.S. That is the one that I have, but it also gives you an amount of money, an average amount of money of what a public education costs, and it uses that to pay if you enter into a private school. So it gives you that money so that you can pay for your private school. And there's also one that covers private schools in the U.S. So basically, for me, it's most beneficial to go to the U.S. because my parents bought that plan since I was a kid, and it will help cover part of the cost. But again, it depends on your case. There are many financial aid possibilities in the U.S. Generally, if you want to apply for financial aid, they will ask you to write extra essays or write whatever or whatever the requirements are for you to apply for financial aid. But you should also, again, research. Research is the most important thing for this process. So again, research your specific universities, what their financial aid requirements are, what you have to do, and specifically also look up prices and whether you can afford them, as we mentioned in another episode.
And be constantly talking with your parents on what your situation is and what you can do, since your parents are the ones who will provide you with your financials to study abroad or stay here in Colombia.
Communication between your parents is key. Completely agreed, Florida.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the college counselor. So first, I recommend you to go and talk to Andrea. She is a very helpful tool. She can guide you well in the process. But I also recommend you a lot to hire your personal college counselor to have a more deep connection with it, so they could help you more during the application process. And in my personally, I didn't have a college counselor, and it made it really hard for me during the application process because I didn't have so much support and tools to be able to apply.
Yes, of course, Andrea is a great tool, but of course she has to be in charge of helping out the whole year. So of course it's not going to be as personal as you would want to. So of course, if you feel like you need it and it could be helpful, try to hire a college counselor. Ask around for your other classmates what college counselors do they have, whether they have. Ask around, ask your parents if they know any, and if you want to try to get a college counselor. It will be a lot of help. Personally, I had a college counselor at the end for a couple months, and it helped me out a lot, specifically with the essay writing and the activities part of the Common App, which are probably some of the most difficult, because of course it's what gives the university the perspective about you and what you are, who you are, and why you want to go to that university specifically. So personally, it did help me a lot. Andrea also did help me a lot. And remember, going to Andrea at least once is crucial because, of course, she has to fill out a recommendation letter. So going there once at least so that she can get to know you and help you write help her write a good recommendation letter about you is of course crucial. And she can also help you out with universities, making that list that we mentioned in the first episode. So of course, try to visit Andrea at least once. She's a very accessible tool. But if you want, try to get a college counselor. Having that in mind, we should also touch a bit on recommendation letters, probably. So
Yeah, so well, the recommendation letters are a really important part of the application process as well. And so to be able to get the I really recommend for you to request your recommendation letters with a lot of time because teachers take time to write them. And also it's really important for you to complete the teacher brag sheet Andrea will be sending you and the counselor brag sheet for them to be able to write a strong recommendation letter for university. And try finding teachers that will fulfill the requirements of, well, based on the career path you want, teachers that will fulfill the requirements for that career. For example, in my case, some universities require me to send social studies teacher recommendation letter. So I asked Mr. Graham to write me a recommendation letter. But there are other universities that you can ask whichever teacher, and also there are optional recommendation letters that you could ask. For example, maybe someone whom you have experienced some close relationship during a working experience or things like that.
So for teachers, I recommend about 2 to 3 recommendation letters. Probably most universities will ask you for 1 or 2, but of course you can also have an optional recommendation letter. It really helps. It really helps out. And of course, as Kiara said, you want to have teachers that of course like you, but also go in hand with your career path or your university's requirements. That is of course very, very important. And of course, ask with a lot of time so that they can write a good recommendation letter, a strong recommendation letter, because it also gives the universities an insight of who you are as a person, who you are as a student, to those teachers.